It's time now to tackle the headline, and we are looking across the competition at the fringe players at this time of year that might be well and truly in the sights of their rivals. Macca, the scouts will be out at training in the back half of the year for who they might be looking for, and they might just be down at Waverley Park because there's a few at Hawthorn.
Absolutely. There's quite a few at Hawthorn. Henry Huswaite, he's the one, Ralphie. There'll be some interest in him for sure. As we know, he pleaded with Sam Mitchell for a little bit extra game time.
Play me at half-back. Just give me a new role. I want to get on this side, yeah.
And with when Will Day went out, there was this expectation that he would be back and he would get in there a little bit more. But he was one of the first always out, wasn't he?
Yep.
He'd be subbed out of the game really quickly. So, but I think he'll get an opportunity. There's enough spruik around him that he could get that. Should Sam Frost have gone to Sydney?
If he went to Sydney this week, he'd be playing on Sam Darcy this week, which would not be great, but he probably would have played every game all the way up to that. Yeah. He's got to find himself a new home.
And he will find a new home. They don't grow on trees, do you, in the sense that... You look at Jai Sarong, he hasn't played since that final last year. He's one of the ones that you would think that, would get a role, you would think, Ralphie?
Yep. He's a beautiful kick. He's probably a third tall. That's the only thing. But, he's someone who desperately needs to get started. You just got to move out of a club that's already, probably got you 2 or 3 back in the pecking order.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you blokes are the same as me. Every Essendon fan I come across at the moment has one question on their lips. What is going on with Elijah Tsatas, and why can't he get into this team? He's one, Ralphie, isn't he?
Well, when he does get in, he plays as a flanker. So he played against Adelaide and he had those 7 clearances. He looked electric. He looked so fantastic. My message to you, Elijah Tsatas, find a way out of that football club. You need to find somewhere that values you. Now, I understand they did a lot of work with him and through David Rath on his kicking efficiency. He might not be an amazing kick, but he's a clearance beast. And right now, Sam Durham's about to come back into that side. Will Setterfield, who's only 27, he's playing great football. And maybe he does things off the ball better than Elijah Tsatas, but he's a pick 5. He absolutely has talent, and you've got to find a club, whatever that is, it's a North Melbourne or a Richmond, that would say, we value you and we'll give you some elite centre square opportunities. Now, the other players out there, Dylan Shield, it's hard. It's really hard because he's not going to be at a contender, and then clubs out there at the bottom of the ladder, like Richmond, like North Melbourne, like West Coast, probably want to blood their own kids. So that's the real challenge for those players who are 32 and 33. He's been a very good player, but right now he's just not in Essendon's plans.
You mentioned Sam Frost maybe going to Sydney. Maybe Dylan Shield was one that should have potentially considered that St Kilda offer that was on a year or 2 ago as well. What about the Western Bulldogs? Because Jed Busslinger is another name loved by commentators, but of course cursed by Western Bulldogs fan. He's another one in the Tsatas camp almost. I think people would just love to see him in there and getting an opportunity. Liam Jones is another one you probably can't see him going on.
Yeah, I just think in a club like West Coast and say, why wouldn't they have a good crack at Jed Busslinger? He is contracted to next year. Of course, you remember he came into that side. He played on Jesse Hogan, did a fantastic job. And then he played as a sub the next week and got something like 30 minutes. And then even when they needed another key position defender, Ryan Gardner came in ahead of him. And so, look, he's a pick. He's a first-round pick, top 15 selection. I know that the Western Bulldogs think he's got some real potential there, but they're not showing that they believe in him by their selection decisions. And so, if I was West Coast, I think, they're bringing some young elite kids in. They've just lost Jeremy McGovern. I think he'd fit really nicely into their back 6.
Liam Jones, as I mentioned, is another one. And Riley Garcia, too. He's sort of been skirting around the edges as well.
Yeah, but it's hard to find midfield time there. Obviously, Adam Treloar's gone out, but he's had 38 and 39 possessions in his only 2 games coming back from injury. Just signed a 3-year deal. So, again, the Dogs would say you're going nowhere. But I think some clubs like Port Adelaide and West Coast, who are really pushing hard for him, would think he's probably even a better player a year on.
Yeah, Macca, one guy at Collingwood who's been out of the team, probably not by his own doing. He's had a terrible run when it comes to injuries over the last few years, is Tom Mitchell. Yeah,
absolutely. You look at him, he's determined to play on, I can tell you that. He is desperate to play on. It's the hardest side to break into at the moment, Collingwood, isn't it? They've got such depth. We're seeing a debutant this week. It's great. We don't see too many of them at Collingwood in a lot of ways, do you? So Mitchell is desperate to play on. He's had the body issues. He thinks he's been able to get on top of that now and is really aiming for it. His form's been modest. There's been some good games in the VFL and there's been some average games. So, but we know his experience. We know that he could come back in, the back end of the season to give himself a real crack. Is he going to get there, Ralphie? It's line ball, I reckon, at this particular
stage. It's probably a rookie list somewhere. Or even
and would he go somewhere else? I think that's the thing. He'd love to stay at Collingwood if the opportunities were there.
You look at the Port Adelaide, Melbourne's bringing their young elite top 15 picks in. Again, we talked about those other clubs. It's just really challenging there. We know what a great character is, which helps, but it's a real challenge. And, OK, does he play another game at Collingwood this year? Unless they
I think he will. I think he'll fit in because they're going to start resting a few guys. So he'll get a game here or there. Whether he can turn that one game into something more substantial circumstantial is the key, isn't it?
Damien Hardwick up on the Gold Coast too, Ralphie. He's got a few that are really struggling to break in and could be on the move, particularly to Victoria.
Yeah, that's right. So they've got those 5 elite halfbacks right now. So Connor Butterick had a magnificent year. They've actually pushed him, pre-season rather, they pushed him on a wing. He's getting some game time there. I think some Victorian clubs would say, we really like him as that running halfback. He makes elite decisions. He's got a nice step. Braden Fiorini, another one, played a lot of time in the VFL, and then again, he's playing on the other wing. Alex Davies is a real bull of the gate midfielder. They got him from their Cairns zone, but he's not playing regular football, so some clubs might like that ballistic midfielder who's got some upside. Mally Roses will be elsewhere. They gave him some tough love and tried to sort of shop him around over last off-season to try and spark him into greater professionalism. He'll move on. Lloyd Johnson's the other one, not getting a game right now. Some people would say he's got as much talent as anyone in the league. Still working through his professionalism. And then Ned Moyle, who's stuck behind Jared Witts, but he signed that 4-year deal, and Gold Coast view is you signed it knowing you might have to wait. There's no way we'll trade you at the end of this season.
You guys, of course, will keep us up to date well and truly with who is moving where and when at codesports.com.au. That's it from us at Tackle the Headline. Enjoy the footy.